Today, we're going to share some very important data points for Tesla. First, is Tesla on track to surpass last year's 1.8 million vehicle sales? Year-to-date comparison sales are lagging by 18,000 vehicles. We'll look closer at those numbers. Second, with news that Tesla's Cybertruck has received official registrations soon to be sold in China, there's new video showing Chinese automaker giant BYD with a Cybertruck, likely to study it and potentially to copy it. Third, we'll review Tesla's stock price movements over the years. Are we ready for a breakout? And Elon Musk's estimated net worth is at an all-time high of $442 billion. And finally, the latest EV survey of 23,000 people from across 18 countries, it shows that less than 1% of EV owners switch back to gas cars. Once you go EV, you don't go back. All right, well, we've got Larry Goldberg with us today. I love it when he joins us. Thank you, Larry.
Great to be here, Herbert.
Lots of new data points. The first one that I think many of us don't care anymore. How many cars are sold this year, whether it's up by 20, down by 20, should not matter anymore unless you have a different opinion. But are we on track to at least hit what we did last year, the 1.8 million? Roland Percher does a fantastic job on X at PILOLY. You should follow him there. So what he said is that today, comparison sales are lagging by 18,000. That doesn't seem too much down. Last year's December was around 220,000. So we don't know yet what this year's December would be. But if we did hit 220,000 for December, then our Q4 sales will reach 500,000. And if we have a strong finish in China, that's looking like we will, most now expect more than 500,000 for December. And if we hit 518, it should bring Tesla to the same level as last year. And Elon did say we're going to sell more than last year. And he said, these are just the numbers from the countries that I get the data from. Some countries are missing, others like US are only estimates. But he basically showed this data point here. This is 2023. The green is North America. The yellow is China. And you got the red Europe. And the blue is the rest. And this is where we're at. I think this is year to date, 2024. Yeah, January to November. So we're just 18,000 away from catching up. What's your expectations? What's going to happen, Larry?
Well, if we don't make it, we'll be awfully close. Europe is the great outlier. We're struggling in Europe for reasons I've mentioned on this channel in the past. It is a really tough year in Europe for all car manufacturers. It's a tough economy, and also the car manufacturers are hurting badly, and they are pushing through their channel their cars at whatever price it takes to actually sell them. So, and some countries, the actual government subsidies cut off at the beginning of this year. So for all those reasons, it's a tough year. But other than that, we're really close. The US is doing quite well, actually. I think there's going to be a very, very big spurt in December. There are a lot of, there's a lot of incentives. Apparently the impact of Trump victory is going to have some impact on Tesla sales, particularly in the Midwest and the South. So the indications are that, we'll get there, we'll get close, if not over that number, but only time will tell. China's on fire. That's great. The US is doing fine, I think. Be interesting to see how Canada does. So it'll be close.
Larry, if let's just play out some potentials. Let's say that we are behind by 20,000, by 18,000. What would happen? Is it built in? Nobody cares. What if we're ahead by 20,000? Again, built in, no one cares.
I don't think the deliveries and production count as much as the financials. People are going to be looking very closely at our margins, given the incentives that have been offered, and in the US particularly. China's been pretty good. The incentives haven't been too bad in China. So I think the attention is going to be not on the deliveries. I think attention is going to be on the margins.
That's a good point. We won't know the margins until January 20th or something around that date.
Yeah.
And then do you think that this includes the Cybertruck? Probably does, right?
Yes, it definitely does. Yeah.
Okay, because I was hoping that the Cybertruck wasn't counted yet, and then it's going to be the kind of like
No, it
an
was counted.
added. Okay,
It was
well,
counted, and honestly, the Cybertruck deliveries have somewhat disappointed me. I thought we would be
right.
further ahead than we are right now.
What's your guess now? We're at 60,000, you think?
Maybe we'll miss 60,000.
Okay, which isn't terrible. Yeah.
No, it's not
Okay.
terrible. It was not anything like I'd hoped for. I was hoping for
Right.
80.
Right. Right. Well, Cybertruck, big news about that. Big news. So Cybertruck has been officially registered in China, right? So there was this registration here. Um, what's that word? That amalgamation or something like that Brian White was teaching me. But it means that they are now ready for safety.
Homologation.
There you go. Why am I the only person who doesn't know that word? Homologation, which
Homologation.
is a very specific terminology for vehicles when they hit the next stage, which is that they're going to be safety rated and those kind of things, right? So Tesla's about to sell, I don't know when, maybe months from now, who knows? But Cybertruck has entered the BYD plant. This is a new video here. We're going to play that. Take it out here. So these are the BYD employees who has ordered, BYD bought a Cybertruck. And so people are going, yeah, they're going to be like tearing this apart. And they do have a plan for BYD to create a vehicle, a truck. Maybe they're going to copy it. Maybe they'll just take technology from it. What are you thinking about that?
You know, in China, people tend to buy halo cars.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's hard to tell what's going to become a halo car and what's not going to become a halo car. I think it's more than possible the Cybertruck will become a halo car in China, and people will copy it. But the more they copy it, the more they sell of the original halo car. It kind of, the halo gets added to. It's kind of like a network effect. So it's pretty exciting. I'd always thought that Cybertruck would do well in China. So let's see if I'm right. I mean, it's a big car for China. Wow. But, I think a lot of Chinese people would like to be seen driving that big car. As far as BYD is concerned, I'm sure they want to look at the four-wheel steering. I'm sure they want to see the
Yeah.
drive-by-wire. I'm sure they want to see the 48-volt system. These are things that, are what all, future cars are going to have. And so I think they'd love to reverse engineer that.
That's what Ray from Ray for Tesla says. This Cybertruck is likely imported by BYD for reverse engineering purpose. BYD has long been rumored to unveil its own EV pickup. Wonder who else has received Cybertruck in China?
Oh, you can be sure there are going to be many, many Cybertrucks,
Knockoffs,
and they're going to
Cybertruck
be
knockoffs.
pulled apart. Some are for knockoff purposes, some for actually copying the innards. I mean, as I've said, some of these, revolutionary components are the components that will be most sought after in terms of the
Hmm.
knockdown.
Do you remember this story? I think you do. When the Model S came out in 2012, there was like 100 people who bought it or whatever, the very first 100 people. Four of them
Right
who
to
bought
China.
it came from China. And each four of them are founders of four of the major Chinese automakers today.
Yeah.
So Robin Lee of Li Auto, I can't name them anymore. I forget them all. But the very first people that handed off the very first Model S, they grabbed it, they saw it, they copied it. I go, I'm going to create a new EV company and they succeeded. They're like succeeding now.
And they
So I
contributed
think
to
BYD. Yeah.
Tesla's success in China.
Yeah. It's a win-win. Okay, so that's a fun story. So the next one here is about Elon Musk's net worth. So what was interesting about this was that you were the first person that seemed to have figured this out earlier than everyone else. Because this was December 4th, which is a week ago. You said this, you posted this on your X account, which by the way, people should really follow you. You're always ahead. I don't know how many times you have predicted something. I mean, it's quite a bit. So it says, you said this, with the current round at SpaceX placing a $350 billion value on the company, given the court decision from Delaware, it's extremely probable that for the first time, perhaps forever, that the majority of Elon's fortune comes from SpaceX and not Tesla. So first you said, hey, that's a lot of money. And Elon owns, I think it was Elon owns 43% of
Yeah,
SpaceX.
44 or 43%. It's very, the
Okay.
report is varied. Yeah.
So then this was December 4th. And then
But yeah,
a
I
few
just want to
days
point out,
later,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead. I just want to
go
point
ahead.
out that's about $140 billion of Elon's net worth.
SpaceX.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, 43%. Um, and then you said this 3 days later. Well, that post didn't age well. And that's because Tesla stock skyrocketed.
yeah.
You go, I think Elon's holdings of Tesla must now be way ahead of SpaceX. So they're both like jumping over each other. I believe, then you say this, I believe Elon's net worth must be approaching $500 billion. I wonder when he becomes the world's first trillionaire. Can't be too long now. And then just a day later, or maybe the same day, Sawyer posted this. He said Elon's estimated net worth has just hit an all-time high of 442 billion, making him the first person in history to surpass the $400 billion mark. And the reason he calculated 442 is similar to what you had done the day before, because Elon has founded, says currently the CEO of these six companies, and he started calculating it. And because I think I missed this, which is this one here, SpaceX basically raised $1.25 billion. And so when they did that, they were valued at $350 billion. And then once you got that number, you're able to add them up, all of that. And then what you said here was what Sawyer misses is that $442 billion estimate is based on private company valuations. And in this regard, companies like X, Neuralink, and the Boring Company are lagging behind in their valuation. So they could even rise higher, I guess. I posted yesterday that I believe Elon's net worth is approaching half a trillion, for like 500 billion. And I really believe this is to be the case. Can you
Yeah,
speak on that?
yeah, I think that if you look at actually Tesla today is even higher than it was then.
Yeah.
So if you take all of these companies into account, I think that if Elon were to offer them on the open market, and if they were bought on the open market, he would definitely scoop up more than $500 billion. Remember that X is valued at a pretty low price today. It would command an enormous premium to its valuation on the market today. Of that, I'm convinced, because of its nascent opportunity in a lot of areas that it's showing great promise in. And then, of course, there's XAI, and X has a percentage of XAI. Often that's not aligned or not accounted for. But all in all, so Neuralink, nobody can place a value on Neuralink as of today.
Right.
And it hasn't had many secondaries. It hasn't had any secondaries, so it's very hard to put a value on it. And then the Boring Company, but that's a very small a very small company in relation to Elon's companies. So I think that he could probably command $500 million for that group of companies as a whole, and $500 billion, I should say. And so I think that he's well on his way to becoming the first trillionaire, and we may see it in our time. Once SpaceX starts delivering, cargoes to Mars, I don't know how you value that company anymore. I just don't know.
Okay. Well, can you educate me on that? Because, okay, let's walk us through here, because you have a very interesting take.
Hmm.
So we all know that Tesla is already a $1.5 trillion company. And shortly, the next segment, we're going to actually show the stock price. And in fact, it can even skyrocket even more. But we know that SpaceX is now $350 billion. I want you to explain why it is that if they do get to Mars, how's that going to make that company worth more? Who are they selling to other than the government? Are you talking about, mining asteroids? What is it? And then you believe that Twitter is going to be the most valuable company of all of them,
Yeah.
even more than XAI.
Yeah.
XAI is going to become very shortly the leading. It's on its path to AGI. So you're telling me that robots, space, at AGI, somehow dinky little X is going to be worth more than that. Which one of these questions you want to address first?
Well, for a start, X is, I think, got 25%, I believe, of XI.
Okay.
of
Good point.
XAI.
Good
So
point.
so that's a very big contributor. But X is going to become a payment company. You know, you got PayPal and Zip2, his first two companies on there. PayPal is, is not a small company. So the payment side of X could become a very large company. I mean, it could be, in the $100 billion range all by itself. Then, in addition to that, you've got this is going to become the largest media company on earth. There's no doubt in my mind. It's going to replace news, it's going to replace communication, it's going to replace podcasting, it's going to replace music, it's going to replace YouTube. Put all of that together, you got a very, very large company. And it's going to be the sort of media company of all of the Elon complex. So, as a media company, as a payments company, and by the way, it's going to become a shopping site. So it's going to compete directly with Amazon. When you take all of this into account, I mean, the opportunities are vast, absolutely vast. I mean, why would it not actually, compete directly with Amazon? Why would it not compete with it? It already competes directly with, OpenAI and Google, and ultimately it's going to replace Google search. I mean, why would people hop out of X to go to Google or to go to OpenAI to do a search when they can do it right there? I no longer use OpenAI. I was subscribed to OpenAI. I was subscribed to Claude. I don't know. I no longer use them. I find Grok to be more than sufficient for most of my purposes. Not all quite yet, but it will be very shortly. So when you take this totality into account, I don't see why they can't drive this into a multi-trillion-dollar company.
Yeah, multi-trillion, but robots is going to be a $30 trillion company, even more. I just cannot see it surpassing bots ever, no matter what. And okay,
Yeah,
well,
but
that's an interesting point.
you may be right in the future, but that's a long time coming. I mean, X is going to be there in another couple of years.
Okay. And then SpaceX, can you explain why you think that if you, I get Starlink, right? Because the communication out there, but how's going to Mars going to make it a valuable company?
What were the largest companies in the world in the 17th century?
Oh, well, I guess the, the India,
The
the
Dutch East
global,
India
the Dutch
Company,
India,
the
East Indian
Netherlands.
company. Yeah. Yeah.
So
The trap, the people, the companies that went around and the
the
import export
companies
kind of
that
thing.
opened up,
Yeah.
the great colonies of the
Yeah.
18th and the 19th century,
Mm.
that's going to happen with Mars. The Mars company, which is going to be, you know, SpaceX,
Hmm.
is going to become, the 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 corporate body through which people are going to buy their seats to go to Mars, going to trade through through SpaceX. So all of the shipments going to Mars to sustain that whole enterprise are going to come through SpaceX. All the return, whatever comes back from Mars, whether it's minerals, whether it's people, whatever comes back from Mars is going to come back on a SpaceX. You know, so the trade, the
Mm.
transport, the communications, all of that to Mars is going to come through SpaceX, and it's going to be a massive population. Now we're going to have millions of people on Mars, and it's all going to be coming through SpaceX. So that's
Hmm.
gigantic.
Okay. Um,
And if
yeah.
you
So
don't
let's talk.
see that, if you don't see
Oh,
that,
I see.
you should talk to
I
Elon.
well, I don't know if Elon is doing it for money reasons. He's doing it for like right multi-planetary species. But no, I know that SpaceX is going to be a very valuable company. I think like I see things like asteroid mining. Uh,
Hmm,
Mars
not,
is an expense until it can become a revenue generator. But for so long, it will be an expense.
I don't see that.
So
I think it's going to be generating. it's going to be generating a huge cash flow early on in the process. Early on in the process.
Yeah. Space tourism is obviously pretty big. It's just I just compared to the other things. All right, let's continue on. So you got Elon saying, "Wow," like he was talking about his own net worth is crazy. So I want you to explain to me how much money or how much his net worth rises every time Tesla increases by $1, for example. So before that, though, Tesla still the stock is about to do a major breakout, and people are going, "Oh my God, we're already at all-time highs." But actually, we're just at the beginning of another breakout. So in 2013, when Tesla broke out of a 852-day consolidation, it went 186% in 3 months. In those 3 months, okay. In 29, from the top of the consolidation in 3 months. In 2019, when Tesla broke out of its 914-day consolidation, it went 150% in 3 months. So then he goes in 2024, after Tesla consolidated for 1,127 days, if it would go in 3 months, 150%, that will make it $623 by February. If it's 186%, it would be at $773 in February. So that's what he's thinking. That's what he's guessing based on these technical charts. Maybe a little too early to say this. But the reason I brought this up is you and I were having this conversation, which is okay, we just covered Elon Musk's net worth at $442 billion. You're saying could be, if you include the other privates, could be half a trillion. But that's with Tesla stock now at all-time highs. What if it goes up by $1? What if it goes up by $100? What if it goes up to $600? What happens to his net worth then?
Charting is phrenology. I mean, James Buchanan famously says every time he posts his chart, I don't put a lot of store in these patterns of the past. Every day on the stock market is a different day. Every day, the conditions precedent and the conditions current are different to the conditions precedent and the conditions at the time. So I don't place a lot of store. It could well go up. It could go down. It could go down as easily as it went up. Something, bad happens politically with Trump, it'll go down. Um, if we get a bad delivery report, it could go down. If we get a bad earnings report, it could go down. On the other hand, it could also go up. So I take this with a pinch of salt. I believe that over the next 5 years, the markets, the stock is going to, and there's not investment advice. And for God's sake, don't buy stock on margin, whatever you do, and don't go into margin on your Tesla stock, whatever you do. This absolutely is investment advice. Do not buy Tesla stock, any stock for that matter, but especially Tesla stock. Do not buy it on margin. So I think that Tesla stock is a great stock. I think it's my top choice. It's my highest conviction stock. But I don't know what it's going to do next month or the month after or the month after that.
No, that's fine. That's great. And then what about Elon's net worth? What happens to his
Yeah,
when the stock goes up?
yeah, I looked at that, and it's interesting. Elon has a little bit short of or around 300 million shares without the pay package that he is entitled to and should get. So if you just take the 300 million shares, every dollar it goes up, every dollar that it goes up, every dollar that it goes up in his 300 million shares means that he's making an additional, his net worth is climbing by an additional $300 million.
For every
Every
dollar
dollar.
that it goes up or down, of course, but
If it goes down, his net worth goes down.
$300.
And people say he makes or he loses. Doesn't
Yeah.
make and he doesn't lose. His
Yeah.
net worth goes up and it goes down. And so it's a lot of
It's
money, a lot of
it's
value.
crazy if you I just can't understand that, right? So like let's say $3, if it goes up by $3,
It's $1 billion.
that's $1 billion. Is that, and are you sure? Can you double check your numbers? Are you really sure?
He's got 300 million shares, right?
It's simple, right?
9% of 3.3 million. I mean, I'm talking in very round numbers. I'm sure somebody's going to correct me down to
But
the
it's
penny,
like,
but
yeah,
yeah, it's $300 million,
that is unbelievable. That is just hard for me to
almost as much as your
gather.
net worth.
Your network. So one point, the company's worth $1.5 trillion today, and he owns, so like you said,
Yeah,
9% at this point.
yeah.
Really should have been 12%, but it's unbelievable. And then of course, SpaceX, he owns 42% of that, and then Neuralink, he probably owns the majority of that. And same thing with XAI and all that. This guy is just brilliant. All right, let's get back to Earth. One more new report that came out.
By the
It's
way,
important.
you just
Mm,
said it. He's brilliant. So if you
yeah.
believe that he's going to actually pay money out of his pocket to take humanity to Mars, you're
No,
wrong.
yeah.
He
No, no.
will make
Well,
a fortune
yeah.
out of people going to Mars. And you know what?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good thing he will.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that at all. Look, he did Starlink to pay for SpaceX, and Starlink is like you tell me, it's like a major success, right?
Starlink is making money, a significant amount of money.
Multi-billions of
Yeah.
dollars. Yeah. So no, no, no worries. And when they spin that off, and I am suspecting they're going to spin off Starlink this year,
Yeah,
2025, I mean.
I heard the thesis that um, he may not. I've heard the thesis that
Hmm.
it's less flexible for him to take
Yeah.
Starlink and IPO it. That he's better off IPOing SpaceX as a whole.
Oh, okay.
So it's possible. I mean, SpaceX is getting so big it's becoming very unwieldy for them to buy the stock from these employees, which is why they have these issues. But
Yeah.
and there are funds now that have been in the company for 10 years. I mean, those funds, they have these private sales, but it's very difficult to manage. So I think that it's time that they may actually, you know, actually take
SpaceX.
SpaceX public.
That's crazy. Okay. As soon as you feel better or have a better forecast on that, post it on your X account and it might come true. You seem to get a good finger in the pulse there. All right, back to Earth again. We're talking about electric vehicle cars. This is new report from Global EV Driver Survey. They included 23,000 people from 18 countries, and they say that less than 1% of them who are EV owners are going to switch back to gas cars. So this is just a fact now. Global EV Driver Survey. This is drivers who already own EVs. That's a lot of people that they interviewed. 23,000 respondents from these 18 countries. Good mix. And 97% are satisfied or very satisfied or being an EV driver. And then here's the chart here. If you had to replace your EV tomorrow, what would you get? 92% said they're going to buy another EV. The 4% of that or more said that they will buy a hybrid. And only 1%, the gray there, said they would buy a gas car. And the other said, I don't know, or other. So that's a big deal. And then why did you choose to buy an EV? The two choices were lower, the top choices were lower operating costs. And the EV is climate friendly. EV is good for local environment, it makes less noise. I'm interested in new technology. I like that lower operating costs is actually higher than, the environmentals. That was great because that's an educational thing. And then did you experience any disadvantages with having an EV? There are no disadvantages. Look at that. The first at the list. Coverage of fast chargers is poor. Charging is time consuming. Chargers are out of function, not enough range. So it's all charging is the other things, but it's
I'm
diminishing
I'm gonna
fast.
I'm gonna venture a pound to a pinch of snuff that
Yeah. Hmm.
those people who say the coverage of fast chargers are poor and that the charges are out of order, those two bars come from non-Tesla
Non-Teslas,
owners.
for sure. Yep. And in fact, look at this. It's India that is I often experience range anxiety. Brazil,
Yeah,
yeah, okay. There's its charging
Costa
network are
Rica,
not
Portugal.
it's not
Yeah,
set up there. But the US is so low or disagree. So look, we're already at the point of disagree, right?
yeah, yeah.
So this is it. Range anxiety is no longer really an issue in the US, maybe Europe, kind of like it's kind of still there in Europe.
Yeah, in
So,
Europe, I mean, there are charges everywhere. I mean, look at France, Switzerland, Germany.
yeah,
That has been my experience as well. I think the biggest problem, and it's not identified properly here, are people living in apartment buildings.
yeah,
In Europe, a lot of people cannot garage their cars in their home. And so they end up having to charge on the street. And
hmm
so, clearly there just isn't sufficient infrastructure. There is infrastructure on the streets. Interestingly enough, quite a lot of the streets have infrastructure where you can just charge, but not not nearly enough.
You caught me. You caught me. There was a chart that I did not copy that I should have copied because you answered it. I think it was 72% of the respondents, they charge at home.
Hmm.
So you're right. It's like still skewed towards people home ownerships, right?
Those 23% of people who do not charge at home, they're the
Yeah.
people who are complaining about the
Yeah.
charging.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a very important point. See, you caught me. Sorry. I was like, should I copy that chart? Don't have time. And I just moved on. I should have copied it. All right. So Elon replied and he said this 99% of cars will be electric and autonomous in the future. Manually driven gas cars will be like riding a horse while using a phone. Still happens, but it's rare. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming and it's going to happen. And, you know, it's going to happen even in my lifetime. And I've got, just a very short term left, but our
You
children
do.
will not be driving gasoline cars. No way.
Yeah, it's obvious at this point. This is fun. Thank you so much, Larry. You're great to talk to. Lots of great info. Smart person. Follow Larry on his X account, Tesla Larry. I'm not joking you. There's been so many times now he will post something on his X account, and then it will happen. You're always like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead
And then
of.
Scott Sawyer will post it for me.
Sorry, no, no, no. But he posts it when it actually happens, but
Yeah.
you always predict it before it happens. You did that when you predicted like how many Tesla's going to announce that they hit their 5 millionth car, and then 3 weeks later, and you actually say the date.
Yeah,
So
but
you have
Scott
your
is a great account to keep you abreast of what's really happening. And I'll tell you, AJ Robertson's pretty darn
yeah,
good on a daily basis. And AJ,
yeah,
Elijah, is the guy who really posts the financials, gives
yeah.
such an in-depth view. So we've got I mean, just so many
Great
people
team.
on your channel. I mean,
Yeah. Did you
what a,
watch the AJ interview that I did?
yeah, I
That
did.
was a really good one.
Amazing.
It's
Amazing.
what he's predicting is Tesla stock $600 by end of next year. But what's
Right.
different about his prediction than anyone else is that that number is based on earnings, bottom up earnings calculations, not some guess future
Okay.
earnings. This is
And,
his kind of like boom. All right.
and I will tell you that I think that he's very, very conservative.
Wow.
I think that his results are of I mean, it's very comforting to read his numbers because he puts so much effort and look, anything
Yeah.
can happen. Nobody can get it right, but his numbers are darn good. Now, the stock price, there are so many externalities to the price that don't relate to the actual
Right.
results of the
Earn it.
company. So we have to
Yeah.
be a little bit cautious about that.
Thank you so much, Larry. See you, everybody. Bye bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.